Welcome back to Visited by Voices Live. Could someone in the chat just let us know that everything's coming through as we want it, loud and clear and bright and clean? Today's show is brought to you by the letters C, H, and H. We have a special guest today from his own self-titled channel, as well as his many, many appearances on The Sausage Factory. I'd like to welcome to the air Mr. Christian Hanna Horror.
Hey, man. What's going on? Thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. We worked out the times of difference and understand your state will come over to the side of civilization eventually. Because I don't know how much farming is really happening in Louisiana at this point.
Not in North Louisiana. I can promise you that.
So, Christian, it's funny. We came onto the former sausage factory at about the same time. And it's funny because I think that we were considered the new guys for a long time, but we almost feel like veterans now. You obviously came with your own following, whereas I had not started a YouTube presence really at all. So you've been doing this for a while, and you have really interacted with a large swath of the community. So let's take a step back into your life, because we know the present story. But how did you discover the horror genre, and how did it become such a central part of your life?
I always love telling this story. So when I was a senior in high school, it was as innocent as, at that time in my life, I was just into whatever was going on, right? 2009, what was big? The Hangover and stuff like that, wearing Affliction t-shirts, UFC was really big. I was into what my friends were into. We were just into that kind of stuff. Metalcore was really big, so I was listening to a lot of Throwdown and this and that, and bands like It Dies Today. And I remember I was happy who I was because, I was just doing my thing, living in the moment with my friends. And I remember my brother took me on a trip to Spirit Halloween, and I remember seeing all these cool life sizes of Ghostface and Michael Myers and a big Frankenstein. And I would see whatever horror movies were just big. I had never dove into anything, even franchise related, really. Like, I remember seeing The Strangers, and then I remember seeing Rob Zombie's Halloween when that came out, because that was a big deal. I remember being a big deal, especially around my area. So that's the trip to Spirit Halloween around 2009. It just kind of it stayed with me when I left. I remember really enjoying the art of all the cool stuff I was seeing. And so that next day, I used to get home from school real early because being a senior in high school, I would go to school for 4 hours, right? And then because I had basically all my credits, and I would go home early. And my mom worked really close to a Blockbuster. For the young people watching, I don't know. I'm sure everybody in the show now watching me is probably older than me, but Mom, I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I kind of want to check out A Nightmare on Elm Street. And I was not exposed to any of this stuff growing up. I had seen Child's Play growing up in It, because my grandma was a Stephen King nut. But I remember my mom was like, okay, yeah, I'll bring it home. Well, she came home and she said, well, Christian, they didn't have A Nightmare on Elm Street, but I got you Freddy's Revenge, the second one. Can you watch that? I was like, I don't care. Give it to me. And I remember that movie scared the crap out of me. And that's my Freddy. That will always be my Freddy, that part 2 Freddy. And I remember watching that on a Monday or Tuesday because it was the beginning of the week. I didn't sleep at all, but I loved it. It was this great feeling that I took it to me the next day. I was like, wow, what is that world? And then from that day forward, I watched at least one horror movie a week. So for going over 10 years now, it's just become like a fungus or a virus in me that's just continually growed. So, I wish I could say, oh, I was planted in me from birth, but that's not the truth. I didn't really get into horror until I was 18 years old. And that's where it really started. And then, I got hooked on the big franchises, and I didn't really start deep diving into slashers and stuff till I started getting into YouTube. But I'm sure I can hold off on that if you want me to. But that's really where horror started for me. So that Blockbuster trip, my mom went and got me that Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, and I watched it like 6 or 7 times before she brought it back. And then I was renting the rest of the franchises. That's where it started. That was the genesis of my true fandom for like horror movies.
Now, second film was your first, but clearly most of the series was out by then, correct?
Oh yeah. The remake had well, no, the remake hadn't come out just yet, or if it was really close around that time. It was probably right in the thick of the remake of Nightmare on Elm Street coming out.
So you had the ability to pretty quickly binge the entire series, though.
Yes.
Up to that point.
Yes, and I did. I knocked all those out, and then I remember doing the Friday the 13th. I started, by that point, after binging all the nightmares from Blockbuster, I knew I just wanted to start buying these movies because I knew that I was going to be watching these movies a lot. So then it was going to FYE and buying those special edition DVDs of Friday the 13th and stuff, and then getting the Halloweens, and then just diving into anything that I can remember. I would close my eyes and I would think back to like, okay, what was I used to look at when I was at Blockbuster? What movie was that with that cover art? 13 Ghosts, yeah, or whatever. And I would just I would save up my money and just buy movies. And I always had a job since I was 15 years old. Whenever I was able to drive, really before I was able to drive, I had a job. So I always had money that I just spent every paycheck on movies, every single one. So once that happened, it it was wide open for me. But yeah, and I dove into all those franchises, hardcore dove into all of them.
So for myself, I don't need to tell my story again because you've all heard it. But for myself, horror has really been like a really placating presence in my life in my hardest times. Much like music, it's been a place where I could go and not feel quite as judged for what interests me, and it was always a sanctuary. Did you ever have to lean on the genre that way, or has it been more of just pure recreation for you?
All of the above, I think. I remember going through a rough breakup right around maybe a year or so later, 2011. It was like my first real relationship, like a couple years or so, and I can remember just that would be the only thing I would do besides running, which I still do that. But yeah, I literally mean it. Like from that time, from the day I saw that Nightmare Part 2 on DVD from Blockbuster, I watched at least, and I'm sure I'm probably being conservative, at least 1 to 2 horror movies got me through nursing school. Horror movies got me absolutely through nursing school. And I don't talk about that a lot because I don't practice nursing anymore because it wasn't for me. I went into it because I didn't really know what to do with my life, which I still keep my license. But, oh, God, nursing school was horrible. I've never worked because I used to – I wasn't a slacker, but I never pushed myself. And I'm not the smartest guy. I work hard, but nursing school was packing 10 pounds of crap into a 5-pound bag, and I had to study my butt off. And the only thing that would keep me sane from blowing my brains out was just watching horror movies. And I can remember that's the only thing that I could decompress because, God, that was rough. So I remember getting out of a really bad relationship and then going right into nursing school, like simultaneously. And I was just like, oh, it was horrible. And this was during Casey Anthony, so the world was in a mess. But yeah, absolutely. And I can remember a few specific titles really falling in love with around that time. And anybody that knows me knows I like a lot of crap. But
we'll get to that. That's actually
yeah.
on my list.
But I remember specifically, and I still love this movie to this day. I've got an original poster for it right there. I remember Blockbuster was closing around this time, and I remember getting the Fly 2 DVD. I bought it from Blockbuster when they were going out of business, and I said, oh, I didn't know there was a Fly 2, and I got it. And I saw it, Eric Stoltz was in it. I was like, that's the guy that got kicked off Back to the Future. Cool, let me see that, which I love that movie. But I can remember that vividly. Certain movies, when I look at a movie, and I'm sure this is the same way for you, you can look at a title and you can remember your life in that moment. Which, I'm sure that I could look at almost every movie on the shelf and probably say that, but some specifically. But I have an affinity with that movie because of it was a nice hour and a half that made me escape all the hardships I was going through. So yeah, definitely lean on horror movies.
Yeah, there's something about the genre and certain personality types that allows us to escape through them, and it's not for everyone. Like there's people that it would make their world worse to have a stressful evening with a horror film, but for those of us who are kind of in on the joke, if you will, it seems to be a common thread is that when we go through hard times, they're there for us. Now, and I think it's interesting too. Like I think there's a generation right now that's going to grow up when they go through a hard breakup, they're going to run to Midsummer because it's a
Yeah,
breakup movie. You
yeah,
know, so I think there's going to be an interesting generation growing up with today's A24 films and even the lesser films that we might not be keyed into, but that generation will be. Um, so y- you came into horror the way most of us did through renting movies,
right.
but that's a pretty solo behavior. That's like you and a television screen, maybe a sibling, maybe a close friend, but it's not a peer group. And then when we got to the point where we all came online, you suddenly discovered there's a lot of us out there. If you're like me, you were kind of almost unnerved by the amount of people that exist in the horror community because it doesn't seem like that when it's just you and a VHS tape.
Right.
So when did you realize that there was this community, and what is your place in it now, and what do you want? Where do you want to be placed in it?
When did I realize? I'm sorry. When did I realize that there really was a community? I guess really it was just slowly. Um, I'm trying to really bring myself back to right when I got into the YouTube, because I had a channel probably a year or so before I did anything, because I just remember clicking on it, and the only reason I had a YouTube channel was because I wanted to watch a video that was 18 or above. And no, it's not a dirty video, everybody, but I was like, oh, let me make a channel real quick so I can watch this. And I think I saw a Facebook post of somebody just sharing some kind of like it was like a Jason head, and I was like, that exists? Like you can get a head of Jason? So then I went on YouTube and I typed that in, and then the first channel I ever subscribed to was actually Piz, and I remember typing in Friday the 13th collection. And because I saw this one amazing video of this guy in a barn, and I can't find the guy's channel. This was years ago. CCG was the name of this one guy's YouTube channel, had this great collection, and he was from Boston. So he would talk like this. He'd go, "What's up, everybody? Good look at the Freddies today." And I loved his videos, but he's retired more. I think he's retired in terms of horror. He didn't collect. But I remember pulling up a video of a stack of Friday the 13th DVDs on a chair. And I was like, who is this guy? And then it was a country boy, and it was Piz saying, today, guys, we're going to look at Friday the 13th collection. I remember watching these on USA Up All Night. And it was ASMR before ASMR existed to me. And I remember from that video, I started finding a bunch of videos. I was like, oh my God. Like, and I ignorantly, maybe it was more because of where I grew up, in North Louisiana, which, the bulk of my adolescence was up here, although I was raised in New Orleans. Dude, horror was nothing. I mean, there was no Halloween. Granted, when I was in New Orleans, Halloween was amazing. We could talk about that later if you want. But, it was so taboo. Like, just no horror, nothing. Halloween doesn't exist. The only Halloween is the churches getting together for 30 minutes, praying, going to this one tiny little subdivision, and that's it. There was no, it was taboo. So YouTube was the only reason I really realized that there was a horror world. And then, yeah, I just started creeping my way into that horror community. And then probably by 2013, 14, I realized, wow, like, this is big. This is big. Which, in hindsight, it was probably shrimpish compared to how big it is now. You know, now horror just seems to be like this. It's almost too cool, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm too punk rock for it or something, but like horror is almost too cool because everybody, like horror is art now, and everybody wants to. You know, I don't want it to be like Metallica in the sense that everybody just wears Metallica shirts, but they don't even listen to the band. Like, okay, if you're gonna wear that shirt, please just watch the movie. You know, but you know that's neither here or there. Now, what was the second part of your question? Where do I?
Where do you think you fit into the community, and where do you want to fit into the community?
That's hard to say. I mean, because I don't know. I don't know. I've been doing these interviews with bigger YouTubers, and I appreciate doing it because the purpose I've been doing those is because I want people. It's not for me, although it's great to do that kind of stuff on my channel and it's fun. But I get messages from people like, hey, how do I get into YouTube, or what do I do and stuff? And I thought, who better than to get some of these big YouTube channels to show their story about that kind of stuff and to see how they did it and how they feel and how they fit in. And I mean, their stories really aren't different from ours. You know, I should have a lot more subs on my channel. I should, because I've been doing this a lot longer. It's not because people don't want to sub to me. It's because I didn't put effort into my channel for years. It was years of me doing YouTube videos with my cell phone instead of honing my craft a long time ago. I figured I would have more, but everything happens for a reason. I'm just really happy where I am now, but I don't know where I fit in. It's hard to say. I just really appreciate the friends I have from this. Without YouTube, I wouldn't have met you. I wouldn't have met Piz. I wouldn't have met Andrew. I wouldn't have met Lee McCoy. I wouldn't. I don't know that I'm in a community. It's a really interesting question. I've been asked that before, but I don't know. I really don't know where I fit into the community. I just make friends, And it's funny, once I make these friends, it's like horror is usually the last thing we usually talk about. It's interesting. Where do I want to be? I'm happy. I just want to keep doing what I'm doing. And if I make more connections and friends and my channel keeps growing, great. But I just love making videos. I watch my videos because they're fun for me to just, it's fun to make a video that you're proud of and go back and watch it, so that, it's kind of like making music. I make music that I want to hear, so I try to make videos that I would want to see, kind of thing. So I don't know. I know I'm rambling, but it's how I feel about the way you're asking those questions, I guess. So, yeah.
So Jamie asks, is there a film that you can watch over and over without it ever getting old?
Honestly, I don't know, because, my favorite films, the films I really love, I purposely space them out because I would never want that to happen. If I had to watch something like once a week, if I had to watch something once a week, I would say probably Dream Warriors or Return of the Living Dead 2. I wouldn't want to watch Return of the Living Dead that often because it's a special event to me. But yeah, something like that. Comfort food, I guess. Those are comfort food movies to me. It's like a bag of Lay's potato chips. I can eat that once a week, no problem.
So, getting back a little bit to being part of the YouTube horror community. So, and I know I rail against this, but I want your opinion on it.
Sure.
So the big websites in the horror community tend to push a line. They decide what they like, and then it feels like all the big sites kind of fall in line with that opinion. An example this year was when Underwater came out. The promotion on all the big websites would have made you think it was this year's new instant classic. And a lot of us went to the theater and saw a okay movie. But then have been films that have come out that have gotten destroyed by those same websites, and they were way better than they'd been given credit for it. And it just seems like there isn't a real principle of democracy, of voice in the community at that level. So do you think that we as YouTubers have a responsibility to avoid ever falling into line, to always offer our honest opinions, and really encourage other people to like what they like and dislike what they like, but always never worry about what the consensus is?
Yeah, I mean, that's punk rock 101 to me anyway. I mean, I don't trust anybody that has... I don't trust anybody that you can read between the lines on this stuff. I think we had a conversation about this. You know, here's these are the same people that are giving us crap about, like, you've got to support horror in the theaters. You people are getting free tickets to see these movies anyway, so why would we want to listen to you? Like, you know what I mean? It's just, you can't. I don't read these sites for a reason. Like, because I've read through the lines on some of this crap. The people decide what's good or bad, not these sites. You know, this is why music isn't what it used to be. People voted with their dollar. You know, it's not corporate like it is now, and just whatever. You know, yes, I think we have a responsibility 100% to always just be real about it. You know, because that's the only way we can really make stuff change. Not these sites. They're paid. They're paid to. They take money, and I'm not hating. Look. It's one thing to be on the outside. You know, some of these people that are involved in this stuff, when you get money thrown at you, and they have to be. If you get stuff for free, if you get, you know, paid reviews and stuff, yeah, money is, I guess, love of money is the root of all evil. But like, when money's thrown at you, like, I'll do a lot of things for money. I wouldn't deny that, but yes, you can't take what these sites say seriously. It's literally a joke to me, and I stopped reading it. I don't, and I'm not even gonna give them the benefit of saying any of the names of these sites. But no, I listen to my friends. My friends are who I trust. The people that are my peers that watch movies. Those are the people I listen to, and those are the people that I look to on what I think to discuss how to fix this stuff. You know, not these sites. So absolutely, I think the power is always going to be in our hands at the end of the day, because we're the ones that ultimately decide, you know, what stays and what goes. But then with some of these movies, like, if we want movies to change, I don't know. It's like it seems so easy on how we can change it, but I don't know. It seems like it's hard to make an actual change happen, because I don't know. I don't have the answer. I just know that, yes, it's our responsibility to always, and I think we did a good job on Black Christmas coming out. The horror community did. The fans did. They certainly let it rip, so to speak. No, we're not going to take this crap. We don't want that. And the movie didn't make any money. So, yeah, we have a responsibility.
So I don't want to put words in your mouth, so I'm going to ask you a question, and I want to follow it up. Would you say that what is your favorite decade for horror?
I'm glad you said favorite, because I always say this. There is a big difference between if you ask me what the best is and you ask me what my favorite is, because I think I can be objective about that. My favorite is the 1980s, because all the movies that I really love, my vibe, my essence is 1980s. So yeah, the 80s are my favorite.
Okay. That's what I thought you'd say, but I did not want to put words into your mouth. Okay, so, I mean, my take on the 80s is that the decade started really, really strong, both because on the foundation that the 70s had built, but also on where filmmaking in general was going. But by the mid-80s, the genre definitely changed from a much more serious, dark, independent feel to a much more studio-glossed, cartoonish horror, which had mainstream appeal and appealed more to the MTV crowd of the time. Now, I know you like many of those titles, and I'm not, and the way I phrase that is a little unfair, but is there something about that turn that appealed to you more than the early 80s, or is it all part of the same picture for you?
No, what I was going to say as well is the late 80s I love horror comedy. That is my number one favorite genre. I love, you know, I can't give you a formula of exactly what my perfect movie is, but I love polished horror movies that just, like, kind of have, that are just, I guess, silly. I love creative, imaginative stuff. So, you know, something like The Dream Child for me Sure, I don't defend it and need to. I don't feel the need to defend it and say, yeah, that movie is awesome. What are you saying? No, I love seeing Freddy dress up as a chef. I love seeing him say "Bon appetit, bitch." I love that kind of stuff. But I also love the music from that time too. So a lot of my favorite movies from that era also have my favorite bands as well. As you know, I discovered Julian Cope from Return of the Living Dead Part 2, which I love that movie. And whenever people ask me about that, my defense is always, I think it's a well-made film. I think Ken Reederhorn was a polished director. It's not like you see any boom mics in the movie. It's not like you see bad cuts in the movie. I think it's a pretty good made film in terms of cinematography. The zombies I think look really cool. I love the dark blue zombies. Sure, it's not going to be it's not a late 90s Adam Sandler movie in terms of how funny it is. It's silly, but it's fun. Man, I just have a blast with that kind of stuff because I don't take myself very seriously in real life. I am a goofball. So those movies are my personality in an hour and a half, I guess. So that's why I love that stuff so much. But of course that's not all I love. But I just find myself really digging those movies so much, I guess. There's many examples I could give, but some of those are obviously like big ones for me. I can't but I it's hard to really put it into words because I don't know. I just really love that time. I think I'm guilty of idealizing the late 80s so much. Like, to me, 1989 is the perfect year. I wasn't even alive yet. I was born in 92, but when I think about 1989, I think about the hair wasn't any bigger, the guitars didn't have any more gain on it, the solos weren't any more wild, and we're at the tail end of prosthetic effects. You got Jason knocking Julius's head off down into a dumpster. It's just so heavy metal to me, but fun. So I just love that time, and I think I sensationalize it a little more than it probably is. I think that's fair as a criticism on myself. But yeah, I love that era of movies. I really do. So,
Crystal Lake Counselor 77 asks, is there a particular horror film you own multiple copies of? And like everyone that's part of the community, you're going to say yes, but what titles are they?
Return of the Living Dead's, all three of them.
Three? Three?
Yeah, all three of them. I've got
How
I've got
the fourth and fifth films.
No, sir. You know what though? I did rent Necropolis with my brother from Blockbuster, and my brother was like, hey, "Let's get this, man," because me and Trey used to. This was right when I was getting into horror, and my brother, he likes horror too, but I remember we were getting that movie. We watched it. And we just remember, the only thing I remember positive was we were both like Power Man 5000 and there was Worlds Collide on the kid's computer for 30 seconds. That's all I remember. Anyway, yeah, the Return of the Living Dead's, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street's, multiples of the ones I really love. Like I've got some Japanese laser discs for Dream Child and stuff like that. I'm trying to think what else. Puppet Masters, stuff like that. Halloween 3, I've got CEDs of that. CEDs of the final chapter. Phantasms on CED. So, yeah, stuff like that. Some of those, just a lot of stuff I've kind of mentioned before that I really love. So
I have a video coming out about horror on very rare formats. So keep your eyes open for that. I think if you're a CED fan, you're gonna find some other formats that you're gonna find fascinating.
I'm ready.
Yeah, I have to dig them all out of the closet. That's the problem. Okay, so the reason I brought up the 80s in particular is that the 80s were this boom time for horror. But what happened in the early 90s is the bottom fell out. It was like a stock market crash. And besides an oddball film like Candyman that came out and made a splash, although it wasn't the financial hit that many of the 80s titles were. It was just really well respected all around, and it was a bright spot. But in general, what we were getting was not doing well until Scream, of course. So this is a period that is sometimes referred to as the Great Horror Drought. Mm-hmm. And Right now, we have more horror on the market than any other time in history. Between television projects, films that are going to theaters when theaters are operating, direct to video, direct to stream, international scenes are exploding in different countries. There's no doubt about the fact that there's more horror today than ever. Do you fear that another big drought could come?
I think it's possible. I think what's worse than a drought is no change. What if there's no change? What if we keep going through a recyclical? What if we going through just this cycle of same old song and dance? I think that's what's even more scarier. Like, I don't want to live in the Twilight Zone. But yeah, but I think that's what we're kind of almost going through. But sure, I think we can go through a drought, but I think it'll be from different causes. Like, nobody pays for anything anymore, so you can't fund movies if nobody's paying for anything. That's what I really fear.
So you brought up the remake reboot cycle.
Sure.
So by next year, we'll live in a world where there's two films called Candyman,
Right.
two films called Friday the 13th, and
Yeah.
three films most likely called Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay.
Are we getting to the point whereas we are on fumes, we just haven't noticed yet? And of course, three films called Halloween as well.
Right. Man, that's. I think at some level, sure. It's hard, because I see cool stuff coming out, but it's not coming out as often as I like. You know what I mean? Like, some of these smaller companies like RLJE, which I loved Satanic Panic and I loved VFW. Those were cool. But that was a year apart getting two cool movies for me to check out from them. Like, I want more of that. And unfortunately, I'm not getting enough of it. And yeah, with the remake stuff, I'm guilty. Here's the thing. I'm guilty. I don't want to just chastise a lot of this stuff because I go see this stuff. I do. But yeah, I do it's here's devil's advocate, Lauren. I'm sitting at the board meeting at not New Line, Warner Brothers. We're going to make a killing on Candyman because the old one did a lot. People love this stuff, we got to change those people's minds in the board, right? But the only way we do that is to stop making the money on those movies. They have to stop making money, but they do. It's like the only thing that would make a band stop making records. Blue Oyster Cult lost their label in the mid 80s because they stopped selling records. I loved the music they were making, but they stopped selling records. So guess what Columbia did? You're gone. If these movies stop making money, wouldn't they go away? So that's where I feel like it's more on us than them. And I'm including myself in that. I really am. But I think it's kind of our fault. I don't know, right? Because we're going to see them. We're paying money to go see them. So, you see what I'm saying? Like, I just don't want to chastise these companies so much because they're in the business of making money. They would put a mouse with a block of cheese on screen for an hour and a half if it was going to make millions and millions of dollars, right? They don't care, right? Like, I think that's really kind of the problem. And I don't want to sound like a jerk. I'm trying to really be honest about it. We got to stop seeing them. We got to stop going to pay money to watch them. So that's kind of really what I think about the remake stuff. If it's good or not, I don't know. Sometimes I enjoy them, sure. But I'm still paying, but most of the time I'm like, oh, God. Like, the Halloween 2018 thing I think was important because I saw the movie, loved it, and probably like 96% of everybody else, I was like, I don't know that it was really that good. I think I was just really horny for some Halloween, and now I got what I needed, and I'm just ready to toss it to the side. You know what I mean?
Well, I think Halloween 2018 also was able to stretch out into quarters that the horror genre usually doesn't attract an audience from. You
Right.
know, people have aged into Halloween now being a classic title. And they preyed on that by saying we're ignoring all the sequels. You only have to care about the original. But also, you had
Right.
Jamie Lee Curtis doing the morning shows. You don't see people advertise, go to promote a Texas Chainsaw Massacre film on a morning show. But
No.
Halloween was in a position to do so. So it all stuck. But Halloween has a pattern, which is that about every 10 to 15 years, they put out a film that the zeitgeist, the average film goer, not just the horror fan, goes to see. And then the immediate follow up, there's usually a big degradation of the audience because they got their fill for now.
Right.
You know, they don't need it again. There's not that pent up need. So I don't know. Listen, Halloween Kills is going to be what Halloween Kills is. I could guarantee this time next year, you and I could have a conversation about how people love it, people hate it. Some people are saying it's the best film ever made. Some people are saying the worst film ever made because that's how Halloween movies work.
Right.
But my problem is that when something comes out that needs to be supported because it's better than the endless reboot cycle, it seems to not get traction with anyone really, not the horror community, not with the mainstream. So how do we get around that? I mean, films only have what 3 weeks in theaters, so by the time word of mouth starts, it's gone.
Pretty
How do we
much.
fix it?
See, Lauren, that's the thing. I wish I had an answer for that. It's we gotta. Here, I think that A24 is gonna keep growing. I want them to, because what I think they're doing is saying, you know what? People aren't stupid. They want to be challenged with these films. And they're doing that. And I can't say I've ever watched an A24 film that I have just said that was bad. No, I think it'll be a slow build, but I think I would love for the next 5 years, maybe a little too conservative, maybe not, that A24 will be dominating the box office with movies. So I don't think there is a quick answer. I think it's slow, but I think it's a little bit on us. People have to venture out, like you've told me, like stop just looking on your shelf for this. Go on the internet. Go look at this. Go check that out. Go see where there's entertainment, but you've got to find it and you've got to support it. And I think that's what we need to do. And I think that's what's happening with A24. So I think they're going to be the successor. I think they can be like what New Line did in the 80s or the mid 80s with Nightmare, and they started this huge movie, and then they took over, and they were killing the box office. An independent studio making Dream Warriors was trashing everybody in the box office. I think that can be A24. I do. But we have to go out and look for that kind of stuff and start supporting it, which people are. So I applaud that, me included.
So what you're saying is we all got to get out there and actually see Saint Maud when it comes out.
Sure. And and I don't know what the physical media does for that as well, but I buy every A24 movie I can on Blu-ray. I do. I got Adam Sandler kind of lost my faith years ago, but when I saw that A24 did Uncut Gems, and I was like, that's an A24 movie. This is not a Happy Madison production. And guess what? Uncut Gems blew me away. I really liked that movie. I was on the edge of my seat. It was great. So yeah, I just think whatever way you can support them, support them. But don't steal it. Please don't steal it, guys. Please. Like, don't steal it. Don't. If you stream it, pay for it. Or if it's on a Netflix or something, cool. At least they're getting something from that. I don't know how those work, but you're paying for Netflix, so they got to get something. But don't steal it. Like, if there's one thing I can say on this stream that you guys remember, don't steal something. Please don't download it. Somebody worked their ass off to make that. Come on. And I'm not saying anybody in the stream's doing that, but like anybody that hears this, please don't steal. So yeah, support it, see it, all that.
So you actually just mentioned physical media, which is actually the next piece on my list of things to discuss with you.
Okay.
So I know you're a big supporter of physical media, and we both know that physical media has had a tough time over the last specifically the last 13 years, in which it lost 83% of its market. 83% of the sales are gone out of the physical media world
Right.
over the last 13 years. And the majority of that, 50% of it, happened in the last 5 years. So it's escalating, unfortunately. What are your feelings? How do we fix that? And should we fix it? Because in a way, I'm wondering if streaming applied properly with some safeguards, such as if you buy a movie, you're guaranteed to keep it forever as a virtual item, as opposed to what we have now. It could actually be really good for smaller filmmakers because maybe people would be willing to spend $4 for a digital copy and not willing to spend $30 for a physical copy.
I can't be selfish and just say, "Oh, I need physical media to stay." What's more important to me is films being made constantly, and is if I want to think about the filmmakers first, yeah, of course I love physical media. It's fun. It's art to me. Number one, I love seeing my movies and I love having the special features. That needs to be fixed. I love special features. I want to see directors' commentaries. I want to see behind the scenes stuff. But streaming can't really do that, or they're not. But then again, I think money could be put into stuff like that in another avenue. Like there's a great documentary, which it's streaming on Tubi, but I bought the Blu-ray of it. It was called Unearthed and Untold. Fantastic Pet Cemetery documentary, and God bless Mary Lambert because she's a great person. And Stephen King believed in her. It's a great documentary with an hour and a half, and you get everything you would want information-wise that you could have had between 7 interviews on a Scream Factory Blu-ray or whatever. They just got everything in an hour and a half worth of time. I would love to see stuff like that be done more often. Obviously, you're not going to do it for Slaughter High, or you're not going to do it for the Chopping Mall, because how big is the market really going to be for that? I don't know. There's actually a lot of fans for those movies now, but I'm thinking about the filmmakers. I want them to have every opportunity to be able to get funding and the access for their movies to get done. There have been some pretty low budget stuff on Netflix. Whether it be good or bad, that's for you to decide. But the fact is, they got it out there for me to see. That's what I care about more than anything, personally. So I don't think you fix physical media. Here's the thing. I love it, but in 10 years, if it's gone, I'll still be breathing. Hope I'll probably be raising my kids by that point, and I'll have a lot more things to deal with than worried about getting a Blu-ray, another Blu-ray of Jason Goes to Hell or something. So I don't think you fix it. I don't, Lauren. I mean, all I can do is keep buying movies because I love it. My wife wanted this, by the way, because I haven't seen this. She wanted The Boy too because she liked the first one, so we got it. It was $14. I was like, cool. And I sell the digital code, so I make a few bucks back off of that.
It's just drab. It's just drab. It's not horrible. It's just drab. You've seen everything in it before, and they just throw all the CGI at the screen for the finale, which is like the lazy way out.
I don't think you fix it, Lauren. I don't. I don't. I just think you support it, and when it goes, it goes. I don't know.
So let me ask this: you are a big fan of Blu-ray as a format.
Yes.
Now, DVD is by far the best-selling physical format there is.
Right.
If it were to preserve physical media being available longer, would you be willing to go back to DVD so that the market could consolidate around a format?
That's a tough question because now I'm compromising my viewing experience in terms of quality. I see a massive difference from DVD to Blu-ray. From DVD to Blu-ray. Blu-ray with 4K, I think it depends more on title to title, but I can't stand watching a DVD anymore. If it's got a Blu-ray, I have to see the Blu-ray version because now DVD is my VHS. I think, it just is. In terms of quality, I think Blu-ray is just... It's standard to me. Watching a DVD is not even something I can't tell you the last time I popped in a DVD. Would I do that, though? Maybe not. That's a tough answer for me to give because thankfully it's not a legitimate ultimatum right now. For my life anyway. But I don't know. I don't think I would, to be honest with you. I think I would just say screw it at that point. DVD, Lauren? DVD. Granted, I've got 4K TVs and stuff, but 480p compared to 1080p? I don't know. Maybe not.
Well, I'm hoping Andrew's not watching. As you
Oh,
gave
he
that
knows this. We he knows how I feel.
I see. I'm mixed on this. I like my physical media. I like my streaming. There's titles I'm perfectly fine with on DVD. There's titles that I would buy on 8K if they made 8K discs. It all depends on the specific title. I can't. I don't rally around a format necessarily.
Yeah.
But the most recent information, by the way, is that the COVID thing has done a real disservice to physical media's longevity. There's been an uptick in purchasing Blu-ray players, which a lot of people got very excited about. But in reality, what they're finding is most of the sales are people with older televisions that are not smart televisions. And so they bought the Blu-ray players because it's a way to get the streaming services into their machines at the cheapest price. Because believe it or not, it's cheaper to buy a Blu-ray player than it is to buy a good Roku stick at this point.
Yeah.
So it looks very much like the days of physical media are probably looking more like 4 to 5 years, not 10 anymore. And there won't be all years that are created equal. The best times are definitely now. So I do encourage everyone out there, if there's titles you want to own, you might want to figure out how to budget doing it in the next 12 months. Because it's going to get harder. Companies like Twilight Time disappeared. Other companies are cutting back on the size of their catalog so they can focus on specific titles. And I don't want to be on a soapbox, but I just don't want people to be surprised because people think that this is going to last forever. It's not going to last forever.
Nothing does.
No. DJ Donnelly had a question for you, and it's way back in the chat, so I'm going to paraphrase rather than find it. But
Okay.
He said, "Why do you like Freddy more than Jason or Michael?"
Freddy's okay. Let me give you like my fanboy answer, and then I'll give you just like my fanboy answer is Freddy's the best. You can't kill him. He's not real. He's not real. If you pull him out of a dream and kill him, he's not dead. Come on. He's the ultimate villain. He's James Bond. He's Chris Tucker when he needs to be, but he can also be as cunning and as maniacal as anybody. Freddy can do whatever the hell he wants. He's not scared of anything. You know, the real Freddy. He's not scared of anything. He's the king. Nobody can touch him. Now, my real answer is I love the movies more because they are my personality. They just, if I was going to ever make a movie, it would be, you know, Dream Warriors or Dream Child or not Nightmare on Elm Street 2 for obvious reasons. I'm married to a woman and everything, but I love that movie. But that's just everything about those movies. I love the aspect of being afraid to go to sleep. Take that at the cellular level. Being afraid to go to sleep. You can't avoid sleep. I can outrun Jason. I can. I run every day. You know, Lauren could outrun Jason. What
are you saying, sir?
You could outrun Jason. That's what I'm saying.
I think there was a lot of weighted meaning to that. If you know.
No, of course not. But I love Friday. Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. No, guys, like you gotta understand too. Above me is a Mount Rushmore of Jason. So I love Jason, but Freddy is. I have an affinity with those movies. I genuinely love every one of them, and I don't feel the need to defend them. I don't care if people hate, Freddy's dead or if people hate Dream Child. I don't care. I don't need to defend it. You know why? Because I love it. Only person I need to convince is myself, and I do that when I watch the movies. But I love those movies, and it's the peripheral stuff. It's let me say something real quick, guys. It's the peripheral stuff about these movies that also get me like no other franchise. Old school Goo Goo Dolls is on Freddy's Dead. Iggy Pop is on this soundtrack. The music that was on these movies, they encapsulate so much of what I love. I'm a big fan of Wasp. Hearing Wasp on the Dream Child soundtrack, which is not in the movie. You've got a soundtrack full of badass hard rock, and none of it is on Dream Child. But the soundtrack is legit. I love the music. I found Dokken from Dream Wars. It's what the movies do to my life, and no franchise has given me more entertainment from multiple avenues, meaning the movies, the art, the stuff I have in my horror room, like, this is in here, this lovely Nightmare 4 standee, that kind of stuff. It's given me more love and stuff to enjoy than any other franchise. So that's why Freddy is better to me than Jason. And Soapbox.
There's never truly an end to the soapbox. We just
Right.
claim it.
Yeah.
So, Chris Lake Counselor asks, and this should be a fast one, really. How would you change Freddy versus Jason movie?
It's oh God, how would I change it? I think I'm no filmmaker, guys. Like, I can't pretend to have the right answers. I just know that Freddy losing to Jason? No, come on. Freddy can do whatever he wants. There is no fight. Freddy would destroy Jason. He would destroy Jason. He would destroy Michael. Are you guys kidding me? Freddy would kill those guys. He can do anything. I mean, look at the stuff he did in Dream Warriors. You tell me Jason doesn't sleep? Well, maybe Jason before he turned into a zombie. Let's be fair.
So wait. Let me play devil's advocate here.
Go ahead.
Nancy defeats Freddy by saying, "I don't believe in you." So basically, if you don't fear him, he goes away.
He didn't die though.
Why would Jason fear him?
I don't think he would.
So then Freddy has no power over Jason, right?
But Freddy can't die, so it would be a very long movie. It would just be a revolving door, I think.
So
Let's be real. I kind of like
I was-
Freddy versus Jason, though. So,
I'll tell you what. I think the final fight is what it promises to be, and
Right.
the best version we were ever going to get of that. But I was against ever doing it. I thought the idea of combining the characters for a fight was an awful idea. So I had like really low expectations, and it's not a film I watch very often, but I'm fine with it.
no movie can encapsulate what all of our, and people are getting mad at me saying Jason can't die either. Jason died in Final Chapter. He died in Final Chapter. But no. He did. No movie. I'm being silly, guys. I love these movies. I'm just trying to make an entertaining show. But no movie can encapsulate the battle in your head for those two, Lauren, or mine, or anybody's. No movie can do that.
Honestly, I think they did a better job than I ever suspected they would for the fight itself. The movie before the fight, there's some rough moments there, no question about it. But
Jason being scared of water is interesting to me.
you know what? Here's the thing. I always say this: good writing can sell any idea. That idea sounds bad, and in the film, it's so underdeveloped that it comes off badly. But they could have done something with it. A good writer could have made that work. It just wasn't in that movie. Because again, you do have the elemental thing: Freddy dies by fire, Jason by water. There's something you could do with that. It just wasn't done. So DJ Donnelly asked a question. I don't know that you're really going to have an answer for this, but we could toss it around a little bit. He asks, "Is 4K a gimmick?"
No, it's not a gimmick. I think it's hard science, like 4K imagery, right? But all I can tell you is I have a 4K player. I have 7 or 8 titles. Some of them have really been cool, like Casino. And then other movies, I actually, because they come with the Blu-ray. You can get the Blu-ray and the 4K. Zombieland Double Tap, there wasn't a shred of difference. There just wasn't. So that turned me off a little bit. And you know what? I'm just happy with Blu-ray. So I think I'm going to just be sticking with Blu-ray, unless it's certain stuff. But then again, like Lauren, like a 4K scan Blu-ray, like to me, like that's really good enough. Like I'm not going to rebuy Zombie or Maniac. Those 4K scan Blu-rays look great. And I can put them on my 4K TV and they look really cool to me. So like, I don't think it's a gimmick in terms of what it legitimately is on paper. But it just depends on what your eyes see. So, maybe find a sale on a player one day, and if you got the money to go for it, and see. And then get the player that can stream, though, like I did. Like, I got the one that can do Netflix and stuff, and it does upscale. So Parks and Recreation looks fantastic.
So I would say that the thing that 4K does really well is, of course, the HDR gives you a color palette that's wider than Blu-ray is capable of.
Yeah.
But again, if the film was using a muted color scheme, you don't really get value there. So it depends on title. Like a Saw movie is not going to benefit from a 4K transfer. It just won't. Not as far as the colors go. But the other thing it does is it does provide a more stable picture. And the way you can look at that is if you look at the edges of the screen, Blu-ray in a lot of cases will shift as the movie plays, and it's just a nature of the format. So if you really want the most stable picture imaginable, 4K is great. My question to you is though, if you're going to pay a premium price, it has to be worth it for that title. Are you going to watch it enough? That's what a lot of this comes down to me. If I'm going to watch a film once every 10 years, DVD is probably good enough. It probably is. If I'm going to watch a film once a year, Blu-ray is definitely probably my sweet spot. If it's
Yeah.
a film that's in my top 10, I'm going to buy it on whatever format is out there. But I don't think there's a one size fits all. And for some people, cost versus use doesn't make sense. So it's not a gimmick. It's just it has its place. The problem is it's still minute part of the business model for physical media. It is going to die at a certain point because it just can't support itself, and it's going to lose its retailers too. So, unfortunately, I think that it's a good format, but it has limited application, and it's a little bit too late to the dance. Mr. McNugget asks, do you think a niche company will start making CRT TVs again for retro game fans and people who still love VHS to preserve the look of the 4:3 ratio aspects?
I've seen stranger things be made, so I can't say it may not ever happen. But I don't know.
So I don't
I
have
have
the
a
name.
CRT.
I don't have the name in front of me, but there's a company that specifically makes clear CRT televisions for prisons. Prisoners can only own things in their cell that are clear, so that they can't be used to hide things.
Sure.
And flat screens are a problem because there's a lot more sharp edges. So a lot of prisons force you to buy these clear CRTs. So they are in the market if that's what you want. Let's see if I've missed anything here. Alpha Marisha, thoughts on Sleepaway Camp 2, and why does Pamela Springsteen want nothing to do with her involvement in the film? Oh, I always wonder, she still looks great for 60-year-olds old.
That's a good question. I think she's probably embarrassed. You know, and she's either weirded out by. Okay, I'm gonna pretend I'm Pamela, and I'm gonna try to understand it. I'm Bruce Springsteen's sister, first of all, and I tried to get into the movie world where I think she actually did some other stuff, small stuff, like smaller roles and stuff, but she never broke through. And I think when she looks back on it, those movies, if she's embarrassed of those movies and doesn't want to talk about them, then she's not going to want to acknowledge it and move on. And she has every right to feel that way. You know, how am I? You know, I think that's what it is. I think she just, it's a part of her life that she'd rather just not think about or deal with anymore. I know she's a big into photography now, which is cool. I would love to just hear her mention it. You know, I'd love for her to know that she has fans, but I'd like to think that she has enough creepy guys message her on a regular basis, say, hey, I love Sleepaway Camp 2. You were great in that. Which I love Pamela. I think she was, especially in those movies, she is so beautiful. She's such like that sweetheart girl next door type. She was lovely. I just think she's moved on. I think she has no desire to revisit that era of her life or think about it, and she's just over it. I think she just doesn't want to talk about it. So I think that's what. But then again, somebody would have to ask her. But the problem is, she clearly doesn't want to talk about it.
So fans always have a warped perspective on this because we love these things, right?
Mm-hmm.
The people who did it as a job and it didn't do for their careers what they maybe hoped, or maybe they even saw it as a setback at that time, they don't change their opinion the way we do. They don't get nostalgic for older genre titles. It takes a lot for them to realize what these films mean to people, and it probably just hasn't reached her yet. You know, I'm noticing, Christian. I don't see Heartbreaker in the chat, so I'm hoping he's in Times Square with a placard promoting my channel.
Let's hope so. Then again, I didn't message him personally and say, "Hey, I'm going live, buddy." So, but he knew. I think he knew. So,
So one thing we're getting in the chat is a question about, older films. Do they need to be on 4K? And a couple people have asked it in a couple different ways. Older films will really look better on 4K than new films, because one of the problems we have is that new films that are shot digitally are mastered in 2K. So by the nature of 4K, it's getting the maximum resolution possible out of the format, but it can't maximize the potential of the format. Film, because you can scan down to the microbe if you wanted to, it can take full advantage of the 4K. Now keep in mind, it's film, it's going to look like film. So if you want it to look digital, you're going to not see that. Have you found a title that you thought really the restoration for, no, it doesn't have to be 4K, it could be blue. Is there a film that you think the restoration really has just changed the game for you?
for
A title.
like a rest. Yeah, I can think of some that really blew me away because and some of these will be low budget horror movies, but I remember I did this one video a while back called "Remember when Walmart sold cult horror films," and it was these 6 packs with these movies like Chud 2 and yada yada, and there was one called they had one for Slaughter High, and the quality was so bad, it's literally unwatchable. And I remember when I got that Vestron Blu-ray for it, Lauren, I was like, oh my God, like there's an actual movie called Slaughter High. Like there's legitimately, because it looked gorgeous. So yeah, there have been titles that like blew me away watching them on Blu-ray and stuff, because it literally opened, there are movies, and this is Suspiria. We talked about this yesterday. Watching that 4K restoration for the first time, as opposed to watching like an older Blue Underground DVD of it, it's God. It's like seeing a movie all dolled up and ready to go to the ball or something, and just seeing it in its best form. And I don't know. Yeah, there's some of my favorite movies like that now, like were because I was able to see them in the best condition possible, and I'm fine to admit that. Like I don't, maybe that says something about me, but like seeing movies that had bad quality turned me off, because like I can't really figure out, like I don't know, just sometimes seeing a great restoration changes my mind completely on a movie. So yeah, I'm a Slaughter High fan now, but not before I saw that 4K, not before I saw that Vestron Blu-ray. Like now I think the movie's silly and fun, and I enjoy it because there's a movie on screen now, but before it's just like, God almighty, this is horrible. This is so bad, So yeah, I'm a big fan of good restorations, 100%.
All right, Christian, ready? Buckle in.
Go ahead.
This is where it's going to get serious.
Let's do it.
So the majority of titles that you talk about on your channel are things from the last 40 years.
Okay.
You don't often dive into films older than that. And you have given partial explanations for this. But I want to give you the floor and let you explain to me why the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s are a rarity in your collection.
If I'm being dead honest, I remember when I did my Monster Squad, I got not raked over the coals, but a couple of people were like, "Come on, Christian, you don't go back and watch his old movies." Yeah, I've watched Frankenstein, I've watched The Mummy, I've watched Wolfman, I've watched Freaks, I've watched obviously Creature, which I do love Creature. My wife has made me watch some of these old black and white, like Japan horror movies that are really trippy to watch. There's no dialogue; it's just creepy music. But I find myself with a lot of these titles seeing it as play acting, and I don't enjoy it. Like, and maybe I don't know if that's, and I'm not saying that as a knock, but when I watch some of those old movies, it takes me out of it because I see it as live theater acting, exaggerated over the top, and I really like just the way newer movies, I say newer movies from at least 40 years ago, I just like the way movies became with acting, the way it changed, the way people learned, like, you don't have to over exaggerate or over accentuate your reaction to something because we can get a closer shot on you, we can do this or that. And it's not That's just my opinion, okay? But I do like some old black and white movies. I do. I mean, I love Night of the Living Dead, although that could have been filmed in color. I love Night of the Living Dead, but and if I do like a lot the Wolfman, because I remember when I watched that the transformation, I understood what they were doing. They were just, guy was standing still when they were adding a little bit here, then the next frame they would do that. I love that, but I just don't find myself revisiting a whole lot of that. It's just, and I'm guilty of it. It's not really a great excuse other than, my wife opened me up to trying to watch some of them, and none of them really resonated with me. So, guilty,
So you haven't seen Black Sunday?
Not by recent memory, no.
Okay. So you like the transformation of Wolfman. So Mario Bava created a similar effect, but did it in a much more creative fashion for that film. So what he did is there was layers of colored makeup applied to Barbara Steele's face, and they used colored gels on the lights on her. Because it's a black and white film, none of it showed up. But as they removed each of the colored gels, the makeup in that color showed up on her face, creating a transformation of young, beautiful Barbara Steele into an old witch. All in camera, all shot. Not an optical effect, not a digital effect, just done purely in camera. And it looks better than any CGI effect from today. I really, really recommend you check it out. Because if you love the Wolfman effect, you're going to be mind blown that there's no trickery. Other than, lighting trickery.
Okay, cool. That sounds good.
Ready for the lightning round?
I'm good. I'm ready to roll. I'll go as long as you want me to.
Well, again, with everything being what it is, I just want to make sure our connection holds out. So we won't go too much longer. But okay. Cam asks, Christian, how much do you think you've spent on your room, not counting movies?
Thousands.
10,000?
It's funny. I was thinking that sounds a little extreme, but then again, guys, just like, you can't see everything, but like, and that's a Freddy standee right here, but like, there's a lot of stuff in there. So, yeah, thousands, maybe 10,000. I'll just say 10,000.
Lost Cunningham asks, give me a horror movie, non-horror movie recommendation.
Non-horror movie recommendation? Rodney Dangerfield, Easy Money. I'm a Rodney Dangerfield nut. I got two, when I get my pug, which I'm hopefully getting soon. I lost my pug, Frank, a year ago. God bless him. My favorite dog I ever had. When I get another one, I'm either going to name him Owen Hart or Rodney Dangerfield. It depends on what his eyes look like when I get him. Easy Money, Rodney Dangerfield. I love that movie.
There you go. Nico Mendes Santiago says, Hammer Films kept horror alive in the 70s and 80s. Sorry, let me reread that. Hammer Films kept horror alive so the 70s and 80s films could get made. Is that out of line to say?
Say that one more time.
Hammer Films kept horror alive in the 70s and 80s. Maybe I can't say it again. Hammer Films kept horror alive so the 70s and 80s films could get made. Is that out of line to say?
I will never pretend to know all this stuff, so I can't answer that. I don't know. Were they making a lot of those in the 40s, 50s, and 60s?
Well, 60s. Hammer definitely played a role, but I think it'd be dumb to overlook AIP, the Roger Corman Studios stuff. It'd be a little naive to ignore the importance of, Hitchcock's Psycho, which was a monumental film experience for a lot of people. Horror did well in the 60s, but definitely, the Hammer bringing color and sexuality and on-screen violence was pretty big. And then, of course, Tobe Hooper kicked the door in 74.
So sure, yeah. See, based on what Lauren said, yeah, I think that's fair.
Jamie asks, what movie do you love that most other people don't seem to love?
Jamie, that's hard to answer because everybody loves everything nowadays. I can't find movies that I like that, it seems like, it's just like, they're horror is getting so bigger now as time's going by. It just seems like you can find a fan base for everything. I get friend request. I I get met like on Facebook. So and so wants you to join Jason Takes Manhattan Fan Appreciation. Jason Takes Manhattan Fan Appreciation. There's fans for all these movies out there, so it's hard to say. I don't know. I love Ghoulies. I love Ghoulies 1, 2, and 3. I don't know if there's the most, biggest fan base for those. Probably. See what I'm saying? There's tons of people that love Ghoulies. It's hard to say because everybody loves everything.
But do you love Ghoulies 4?
I haven't seen that. Is that like a legitimate thing?
It is, but there are no puppets in the movie.
Why have I not heard of this?
It was only available on VHS, and it's never appeared on any digital format, I don't believe. Yeah, they put midgets in makeup.
I've got to see this now.
And there's the promo shot for the next episode. All right, so Jamie says she wants to add to my recommendation for you of Black Sunday. She wants to recommend The Black Cat with Lugosi and Karloff. I would agree with that. It's a strong film. I kind of prefer The Raven, but she and I can have that discussion at a different time.
Debate, rather.
No one loses in that debate, though. That's the thing, because Al from Russia says, Back to School was hilarious, R.I.P. Rodney. DJ Donnelly says, do you listen to horror stories on YouTube? I guess he's talking creepypastas.
No, I don't listen to creepypasta, but, people always tell me to listen to that. I say, no, check out a guy called Mr. Scary, I think. It's like 3 creepy food delivery stories. He's got a great voice, and he tells stuff like that. But no, I listen to him, Mr. Scary on YouTube. Great stuff. He tells stories so good. People submit him their little stories, whether they're the real instances or not. It doesn't matter because it's all just drama and for fun. He's great. Mr. Scary on YouTube. You guys check that out.
And my favorite would be Lady White Rabbit because she's every bit as cynical as I am.
Yeah, we talked about her yesterday. I listen to her too.
Yeah, pretty amazing. Cam says, remember, you're a melon.
That's Back to School. Yeah. You're perfect.
Crystal Lake Counselor 77 says, what should never be remade, Halloween 3 or Christine?
Halloween 3, I don't think should be remade. I don't think it will. If it keeps getting fans, it'll get remade, so people need to stop liking it.
And on the other hand, like the way the King remake cycle happens, Christine will happen. So
it'll be a smart car, Lauren. That could be fun. A smart car, Christine. Have they already made a movie about that though? I'm sure there's been a horror smart car movie.
Well, I don't know. It's gonna be a haunted Amazon drone delivery.
I'll watch that on VHS.
Steve asks, Christian, did you watch the Owen Hart episode of Dark Side of the Ring?
I did. That was really sad. Yeah, seeing that when Martha showed the buckle that was holding him up, I couldn't believe it. I never thought in a million years we would see that kind of information come to light. I did, though. Rest in peace, Owen.
Mr. McNugget asks, do we need a new hammer to get through these times? And I think you kind of answered that. I think A24 probably are the new hammer, right?
But Lauren, you know what? Hansel and Gretel was a Hammer film. I didn't realize that.
Well, they had money in it, but
so what are they doing today? I liked Hansel and Gretel.
The Lodge.
They did the Lodge, not Hansel and Gretel. The Lodge. That's what it was. Hansel and Gretel I thought was more sizzle than steak, but then again, so am I. So I did like Hansel and Gretel, but the Lodge, that was cool because I watched the credits for that, and my wife, she's like, Hammer. I was like, I don't know. I didn't know they were still around, but that was cool.
Hammer don't put out a lot, but what they do put out modernly, since they came back with that Daniel Radcliffe version of the I can't think of the remake that they did about 9 years ago, but they're back.
That's cool.
But I love The Lodge. I think The Lodge is legitimately one of the best films of this year so far.
Yeah.
Vanderhoff Dave asks, can Christian make a behind-the-scenes video on his recordings of music? I think a lot of people would enjoy that.
Sure, I can do that one day. That's fine. I'd love to do that.
So when you do your Jet Blackberries cover, you're going to do behind the music.
I gotta figure out. I gotta figure out which song I want to do because I really like because I want to do something from here. I really like Sundown on Venus, but Bad Hombre is a jam. So like that would be fun to record. So I don't know. I gotta figure out which one I'd love to do. I like it a lot. Like it's getting up there for me with Saint Julian because Saint Julian's my top 5. But that album is so good. I mean, as far as musicianship, because Julian had a fantastic band in that era. His band was great. Go look up, guys, the live video of him. There's a concert from New York that was recorded. His band was fantastic, but this band is like on par, if not better. I mean, the drummer for Jet Blackberries on that record is killer.
Roy Stein. Could you show the cover of Sundown on Venus so everyone can see it? You can't. It is available on iTunes, by the way. And if you buy it on iTunes, you're actually just getting a rip off of vinyl, by the way, because the master tapes are sitting in an El Seguno record vault and unacceptable for the band. DJ Donnelly asks, late 70s onward is when horror got better. Disagree or agree?
I'd go back another 10 years. I think. For me. But I'm not disagreeing with you. I mean, you gotta remember, I'm a Night of the Living Dead nut. I think there's movies before Night of the Living Dead, and then there's movies after Night of the Living Dead, so... But I wouldn't disagree with that. No, I really wouldn't disagree with that. But I personally would go back another 10 years. So...
And you guys have heard it before me before, but my decades are the 30s, the 40s, and the 70s. Steak sauce, hashtags midgets and makeup. I should have waited till you took a sip. Nasser asked, do you guys like old radio shows?
I'm a Howard Stern guy. I mean, I've been listening to him religiously myself. Besides going on YouTube and watching, some of the great stuff when Artie was still on the show. But I've been listening to Howard religiously for the last 6-7 years, which he's still running. But I mean, that's really it. Like all the stuff on the radio now is crap. But as far as old stuff, besides that, no, that's really all I can say is Howard. I listen to Howard.
When I was a kid, I had some cassettes of the old Inner Sanctum radio mysteries, and I loved them at the time. A few years ago, I tried to listen to them again because they're all available on YouTube. And it was not a great experience. It wasn't a great experience. I should have left my nostalgia at the door.
Ain't that a bitch?
Yeah, it is what it is. Now, the Universal films made from that series, I think, are quite good. Dead Man's Eyes in particular, because you get Aquanetta and Chaney Jr. actually sober. So that's always fun. Lost Cunningham says, name the dog Owen Hart, R.I.P. Nica Mendez Santiago says, do you enjoy any Italian 80s horror titles like Wax Mask or Cannibal Apocalypse?
Cannibal Apocalypse, I Lauren told me, he goes, hey, you could watch that. Yeah, I guess you can go ahead and watch that. Which I did. It was fine, right? Like, I love Nightmare Beach. Like, that was me. Big, great hair metal and fun, cool characters. Yeah, but I do. I mean, obviously, I made a video about like my 5 favorite Italian horror movies, and I gave the most ridiculously, ridiculous, of course, answer, but like Zombie, God almighty. That's not late 80s, though. That was 79. Late 80s. I'm still diving into that. Zombie 3 was okay. Zombie 4 was okay. But Nightmare Beach was so far like my favorite late 80s. I've still got to dive into the late 80s. That's actually something I should do because that's my favorite time. So yeah, I got to look into that more.
Yeah, so the Italian film industry was really dying by 88. So the quality starts to dip down pretty hard in late 80s. It's just the money wasn't there.
Right, right.
Yeah. So you have to go in with your expectations in your hand with your briefcase, because otherwise you're going to come out disappointed. But there is something to be said for a lot of titles still. And if you didn't see my video in which I showed the laser discs and some of the laser discs in my collection, I have the Japanese wax mask laser disc that I showed in that video.
Should I see Wax Mask? I haven't seen that, but it's on my radar.
It's good, but it's so. Do you know what it is?
No, I typically just look at the reception from people I know, and then I dive in.
Okay, now this is going to make it sound like something you need to buy tomorrow, but I'm going to tell you, take your time. It's not a big deal. So, Fulci and Argento did not like themselves. They were in a constant competitive race with each other, kind of a Stones and Beatles type thing. And at the end of Fulci's life,
Fulci is definitely the Stones, because I'm a Stones guy.
Definitely. He might be the Who, actually. But anyway, at the end of his life, he finally made peace with Argento, and they decided to collaborate.
You've told me about this. You've told me about this. Go on, though. Go on, though. Go on, though.
And there was an earlier false start, which I don't want to get into that story because that gets all kinds of controversy. But the second project was the Wax Mask. And it was going to be a return for all the classic Fulci cast of characters, from the screenwriter Dano Sacchetti to the special effects artist Giannotti De Rossi. It was a homecoming film, and then Argento was going to produce the film, and then Fulci died.
Oh.
And so the film was retooled. Yeah, the film was retooled, and it was made. And you can kind of see what probably was Fulci's movie in it, but you can also see a lot of stuff that he'd never in a million years do. The film has had a spotty release history. So if I was you, I'd find an import. Don't go with that horrific domestic release that on DVD that came and went. But it's not the classic that you'd hope from a film that was going to be a collaboration between the two titans of Italian horror gothics. So... Anyway, Crystal Lake Counselor asks, how should Scream 5 open?
Here's the thing. You know how Scream 4 should have ended? After she killed Neve Campbell? I think Scream 5 could have been cool with somebody else. Here's the girl from Scream 4. She got away with it. She kill everybody. Kill them. She got away with it. And then 5 could have been this great story of somebody vigilanting her, and we don't know who that is. You know, it's kind of like when all the bad guys were good guys, right? You could have made this change for 5, and it could have been this crazy vigilante movie with this girl who killed who killed Neve and killed Courtney Cox to get away with it. Because what was the movie about? To be famous, all you gotta do is get in trouble or go through something traumatic. Well, she's now having to live with her own secret of that, and Scream 5 could have been her trying to survive, but now she has somebody trying to get revenge for those she killed. That would have been a movie. But they didn't do that. So, that's what I think.
So, I believe that Scream 5 should open with a text scroll that apologizes for the previous 4 films.
Yeah, I don't think he's a fan of any of them, is he?
The first film's okay, and then after that, they're just not for me. Oh, I went way too far here.
We got some questions, baby.
We do have... Well, they love you.
I'm ready.
Okay, Horrid Film says, do you think modern movies don't try or focus on really trying to be scary or terrifying? There are decent, well-made films, but I rarely feel like the filmmakers are truly trying to scare me.
That's hard, and it really just depends on your threshold. I'll tell you what, Hereditary had me doing this for like 3 nights. Because I love getting lost in my movies, guys. When I watch a movie, you see this right here? It's not in the same room with me. These lights, they're off. My big glasses are on because I can't see. But I love to get sucked into movies, especially horror movies. And sure, we're desensitized, you know. When people tell me, oh my God, The Exorcist scared me, I'm like, really? It's not that scary. Come on. Like, it's not scary anymore. But you got to think about, you know, My uncle, when he told me about seeing Halloween, he goes, Christian, it scared everybody in the theater. I was there, 1979. I saw the movie in the theater. We were running home. We were running. But he hadn't, he told me, he goes, I hadn't seen anything like Halloween. I wasn't exposed to that yet. We have been exposed to everything. But now the way to scare people, I think, is here. Not so much, not so much, like this. I think it's here how you scare people. The movie like The Lighthouse had me questioning everything. I loved the movie, but I was questioning what I was seeing. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, it was like a lucid dream. So I think it's just harder. I don't think that filmmakers are lazy. And then you got to think about studios. Oh, no, you know what's really great? Like, when we do the fast forward thing, when the monster runs towards you? No, So I think there's part studio and part us being exposed to everything is the problem. So that's my 2 cents.
And I just feel that horror always preys on the fears of a generation. The successful films do.
Yes, there you go.
So the problem is we haven't adjusted to the modern fears. We're still trying to kind of latch on to the fears of earlier generations. And the truth is that we live in a very safe society, and a society that is moderating a lot of their belief cycles. So The Exorcist doesn't work for kids today because fundamental Christianity is not central to America anymore. Christianity might still be, but not fundamental Christianity. So you ask people, do you believe in God? They'll say yes. Do you believe in the devil as an actual corporal being that could possess your daughter? You're going to get a lot of mixed answers. And that's an example. We have to find ways that the beliefs and the fears of the modern age can be reflected in our movies. And I think once we do that, we'll be in a better place. But it does mean we got to stop with these reboots and recycles, because that's exactly a symptom of the fact that we haven't done the mental job of writing screenplays that reflect our world. Stu says, with all this horror talk, do you guys believe in ghosts and demons, Ouija boards, etc.?
Do you want to go first?
I believe that Ouija boards exist. Sure, I own many of them. I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe in demons. I don't believe in anything supernatural. I don't disbelieve anything necessarily, but until it shows itself to be a part of the world that can be proven in some way, I don't choose to believe in it. But I don't pretend that it's impossible for anything to exist. I just need some kind of proof before I will actively believe in anything.
Yeah. I don't think ghosts are real. I don't. It really depends on what day you ask me, because it's hard to answer this without bringing some sort of religion into it, which I don't want to, just because I don't want to get into that. But I think that there is evil, and I think yeah, I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. I think I think demons could be like an evil. Something evil could possibly exist. Some sort of legitimate evil. I haven't come across it, but I fear it. So does that make me believe it? I don't play around with it. I won't play around with Ouija boards. Call me silly. I just won't do it. I fear it, so maybe that's belief. I don't know. Why fear something that's not real?
When you get around to coming up to Jersey to visit me, I'll hide all the boards because there's a lot in this house.
Please do. I play it safe. Like, I don't do the Bloody Mary thing with the mirror. I just don't do it. I don't want to say it's a respect thing. Like, oh, I respect that. Yeah, I'm a scaredy cat. So if I fear something, that makes it real to me, I guess. So that's what I'm trying to say. So yeah.
Yeah, they hate me on haunted tours. They hate me. The tour guides very quickly figure out that I'm just not a mark. Because at some point, every tour guide who thinks they're clever gives a challenge to people. Like, they'll tell a story. Oh, down this hall, in that room, there was a triple murder, and people hear this. Does anyone want to go and knock on the door and see if there's an answer? And I'm already halfway down the hall to knock on the door. Because I just don't believe any. Don't challenge me. Don't do it.
Not me. I'm a scaredy cat, man.
I'll drag you along. It'll be good. Jamie says, Christine, the book is scarier than the movie, but the movie is fantastic. It's one of my... I don't really love it as a novel. It's good, but that's all it is. The movie is good. It's a lesser Carpenter, but it's good. Any big feelings on Christine? Either way?
No, I remember I think the Sausage Guys, we did a commentary on that, and I remember saying I think it's a gold album for John, not a platinum album. And I
And I
think,
think that's really fair.
I think I got crap for saying this, but I was like, you know what?
Not for
Like,
me.
I think I said, I think somebody else I think Sean Cunningham could have done that movie just as good. And I remember like getting like, huh? And I was like, no, I do. I think Sean could have done Christine. I do. So, but I like
Especially,
Christine,
yeah, especially
you know?
considering the time period where John Carpenter was just nailing every film. It was kind of like the film where you came out and said, "Good probably isn't good enough for right now." But I'll tell you what, if he'd released it in the '90s, people would be talking about it as a return to form.
That's fair.
So,
That's fair.
DJ Donnelly actually remembered the film title that I forgot from Hammer, and that was Woman in Black. Thank you, sir. They also did a sequel to that, which is not as good, but has moments. Cole is gay, says Christian. Who is your favorite character, not Freddy, and Kill in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise?
Favorite character is Jesse. No, yeah, Jesse. I love Jesse. I love him in that movie. Favorite kill is actually Grady, but it's not the kill, it's the scene. Like when Freddy comes out of Jesse, it's like I remember on the documentary Robert Ressler, who I love. Robert, my favorite person I ever met at a convention, the most real human being I've ever met. Roberts talked about like he went to the theater on the premiere to see it, and he goes, everybody's yelling and screaming in the movie, but when that scene happened, everybody was silent and they were just like in shock watching it. That's how I was the first time I watched the movie, because I hadn't seen that. I hadn't seen a practical human being made where a Freddy cuts out of him and stuff. So when I watched that for the first time, I remember it like it was yesterday when I was sitting in my bedroom, 10:30 at night, the house is quiet. I'm studied from my whatever's going on, and I remember watching that. Never will leave my head, and I still love that scene till this day. My favorite horror scene ever is that scene. So yeah, I love that movie. I love Jesse.
Okay, this next one could be like 7 hours long as an answer, so I want you to just give like two.
Okay.
Los Cunningham asks, Hannah, what bands influenced you?
The bands I'm listening to now have influenced me more now than when I was growing up, because I don't find myself listening in my formidable years in high school and stuff. I was listening to hardcore metalcore like Avenged Sevenfold and bands like It Dies Today, bands like that Atreyu, that style of music. I listen to it heavily. But in the last 5 years, listening to more new wave and music like just like that kind of stuff. Talk, new wave, Tears for Fears, which is like the typical answer when people bring up new wave. But guess what? Guess they made some really good albums. Johnny Hates Jazz. I love Johnny Hates Jazz. Julian Cope. I love that style of music so much. And once I got into that, it stuck with me. So I guarantee you, in 10 years from now, I will still be listening to Julian Cope. I'll still be listening to I'll still be listening to Fine Young Cannibals. I love that. I love Fine Young Cannibals. So that's the kind of stuff that's influenced now, because it hits me deeper. It penetrates my heart more than any kind of music I've ever listened to. So it's interesting that in my late 20s, I've found more of the music that has influenced me because it influences me in my life, not just the music I listen to and the way I play. It influences the way I think and feel. So I'm done. So yeah, that kind of music.
Al from Russia asks, thoughts on Robert Jacks as Leatherface, R.I.P.
I'm sorry. Remind me what he was in which movie he did. Robert Jacks.
Was he not 3D?
That sounds right. Wow, actually, if that's the case, I almost saw him at a convention when I was in Michigan visiting family.
He was Next Generation.
Just God bless him. God rest his soul. I know that there's a fan. I almost thought about mentioning that to Jamie when she asked me film you love that everybody hates. But guess what? There's fans for Next Generation. That's my wife's only Texas Chainsaw movie she watched growing up. She can't explain to me how, but she said
that happen?
She said her love, real quick, I'll say this: her love for classic movies like that. She grew up watching Turner Classic Movies. She knew about Alice, Sweet Alice, before everybody was buying the Arrow Blu-ray. She was like, "Oh yeah, I watched that growing up. Like, I love that movie." She was watching that kind of stuff. She loved the Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake and stuff before I even knew it existed. My wife. She was like, "Christian, I grew up watching Turner Classic Movies." So she loves that kind of stuff. I don't think Next Generation was on Turner Classic Movies, but it was on HBO, which she had. That's what it was. She used to, because they had Next Generation on a loop in like 99, 2000 on HBO. So she grew up watching that one a lot, and she loved it. She goes, "I love that movie. It's my childhood. I can't hate it. But I like that movie. It's crazy. Are you kidding me? The movie is nuts. I'd love to see the script for it." You know?
Do you think there was a screenplay for that thing?
It can't be, right?
No, not at least not what they actually shot. So, are you ready?
Let's go.
Heartbreaker says, hashtag Heartbreaker interview. By the way, I checked the statistics and you'll be at 1,000 subscribers within 9 months. Well, sir, you need to understand you had a deadline. You had one job. So either you get this done or don't complain about it. I don't know what to tell you.
That's right.
Steak Sauce says Scream 4 is a banger.
God bless you for thinking that. I'm glad you love it. No hate. I'm glad you love it.
Absolutely. I'll just mention that banger is an English word for sausage. Jamie says thoughts on the Final Destination series.
That's fine. I think they're fine. I'm not the biggest fan in the world. I like 2 in particular.
2 is the best.
So cool. Yeah.
Al from Russia asks, scarier, Hereditary versus Suspiria 2018.
Initial watch, Suspiria really, I was sucked into that world. But I guess Hereditary. I loved the feeling of Suspiria when those girls started doing that when they were dancing. I was like, oh, what's going on? Like, I was enthralled with that. But in terms of general fear, by the end of the movie, when Toni Collette's banging her head upside when she's on the roof, that just freaked me out. So Hereditary. But I loved Suspiria 2018.
Yeah, Hereditary is easy winner for that for me. DJ Donnelly asks, how did Michael Myers learn to drive if he was locked up in a mental institution for years?
Movie magic, baby. Ask John Carpenter.
I keep saying, like, Halloween is not a perfect film. People calm down, but it's a great film.
And John's the one that says this. John has said in the documentary, stop asking me why Halloween's such a great film. Maybe you'll realize it's not and the film will go away. That's John Carpenter. The guy that everybody sensationalizes and makes out to be this genius. He will be the first to tell you, I made a movie for a couple $100,000. I wrote the music. I put a mask on a guy. I tried to make it suspenseful. That's why I love John Carpenter. That's why I love the man. He's ornery, he's callous, and he doesn't sensationalize anything. That guy is awesome.
So Nick Mendez Santiago asks, is there a mediocre 70s or 80s horror film that could benefit from a remake? Well, you think, I'm just going to say, why don't we make new mediocre films instead of remake old mediocre films?
That's fair. I mean, I really can't think of one. I mean, I can't think of a certain movie,
So last year, a film called Countdown came out. It's not great shakes, but it's very watchable. I'd even say it's fun. Not going to be on anyone's best of the year lists. I didn't see it on anyone, so makes sense.
And I enjoyed it. I did enjoy Countdown.
So did I. The thing is, it's okay for films to be okay. Not everything has to be awesome or horrible, and we don't need to remake things simply because they weren't everything we wanted them to be.
Right.
Sometimes you got to let things just be. DJ Donnelly says, a Ouija board live stream. I'd be down for that. I might be down for that too, except I think it's going to be very boring when nothing happens. But then again, Geraldo Rivera created a career based on nothing happening, so who knows? Big Crack Rock says it's got to be tough to make a good movie about a possessed car. Well, the car with James Brolin, right? And there's a great TV movie called Killdozer, which is about a haunted bulldozer. I recommend finding that piece of shit because you'll
That
love
sounds
it.
great.
Oh, it's awful. You'll love it. Chris Lake Counselor 77 says, does mental illness in an individual negate acts of evil they commit? Evil requires intent and knowledge. If so, Dr. Loomis misdiagnosed Michael. How is he evil if he had a mental disorder?
First of all, no insurance company would pay to have somebody like Michael Myers held that long anyway. That's from the business. I worked in mental health before, specifically like drug and mental rehabilitation. Michael would have been put on the streets. No, he wouldn't because he killed somebody. He would have been put in prison. He just would have been sent to prison after 6 months of being at a facility like that. I think Ed Gein though, like, didn't he actually go to like a permanent like type of mental facility after he was tried? I don't know. But then again, Ed Gein's a lot more vile than Michael Myers. Michael Myers is a saint compared to Ed Gein. In terms of when he got caught as a kid, not after all the stuff he did. But then again, Ed Gein probably still is more maniacal. Was there a question in there? I'm sorry.
There was a lot of questions in there. Let's go through that a little again. Does mental illness in an individual negate acts they commit of being evil?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. That is a good question. You want me to answer that? You want to finish?
No, you can answer that because we can riff off of that probably for the rest of it.
That's up for a jury to decide. That's all I'm gonna say about that.
You see, the thing is, I think that Loomis is trying to tell everyone in the movie that it's not mental illness, that something evil has taken hold of Michael Myers. I think that he, as a psychiatrist, has decided that this isn't mental illness, and that's what he talks about. Looking into his eyes and seeing the devil's eyes, he's really talking about the fact that he came across something he couldn't cure or even understand. So I don't think he is mentally ill from Loomis's standpoint, anyway. He just sees this as an evil thing he came across. And the movie does something quite brilliant in that the whole time you think that Loomis is wrong. You think Loomis is a good character, but you think he's wrong because you watch the film and it seems like a stalk and slash scenario. And then we get to that last scene where Michael's been shot and he's missing from the lawn when Loomis looks over the balcony, and you realize the horror is he was right, and that's why that final line of dialogue is so impactful. Was that the boogeyman? As a matter of fact, it was. And at that moment, Loomis almost seems surprised by his answer, right? Like he's been promoting this idea for so long, but oh my God, I was right. We did just encounter the boogeyman. Let's see. Vanderhoff asks, have you seen Shock 'em Dead and The Killer Workout? They're both really fun films from the 80s that I think you would enjoy.
I have not, but thank you. I love titles like that. Sometimes a good title is all it takes. So that sounds great.
Killer Workout you will like a lot. It is a really sleazy, awful late 80s kind of slasher. Shock 'em Dead with Tracy Lords, I'd say is not probably as good as its reputation holds up. So find it for on sale, definitely. Or find it streaming, because I'm sure it's either on Tubi or one of the free sites. I'm quite sure you'd find it.
Okay.
And Misty Dog says, yo, Strubba.
That's my dad.
Is it?
Yeah, he calls me Bubba, but that turned into Strubba.
Well, there you go. So I'm going to put up your contact information in a moment, and then when we come back, figure out what you want to tell the folks, and then we'll call it a stream. Sound good?
Okay, sounds great. I've had fun.
I have too. All right. So, sir, take us out.
I'm just glad I was able to do this. I met Lauren through the Sausage Factory, and it's funny, like on the surface, when we first met, we have nothing in common, but we actually have a lot in common after we started talking, and he's become a good friend, and I'm glad to see that, you've been active on YouTube. It's fun, man. Y'all's videos, like the videos you make and stuff like that, that's my television in 2020. Not actual TV, but like this stuff. It's fun because it's interesting to me, and I love seeing everybody's thoughts and takes on movies. Whether it be, I enjoy hearing people talk about movies that I have seen a million times, but I love hearing people's thoughts. So whenever I see, Lauren doing, Friday the 13th Part 5 videos, it's like I already know how he feels, but I can't wait to watch that video. It's fun, and it's just fun doing YouTube and meeting the friends and making the friends that I've made through this, and it's awesome. I can't wait to see some of the stuff you have planned. I'm deadly excited for it, and yeah. I'm just glad you asked me to be on the show, and I hope the audience had fun. I mean, I got some questions, so at least some people were watching. I was a little nervous about that because I was like, who's going to want to watch me? But it seems like, he kept asking me questions, so somebody's here watching me, unless somebody made a bunch of channels. So, it's been fun. It's been really fun.
Awesome. And thank you for coming on. I think that sometimes, especially on panelist shows, it's easy for individual voices to sometimes get lost. So that's one of the reasons I want to do these one-on-one discussions. Discussions, more than interviews, right? I don't think there's anything more compelling than two people who are passionate about a subject just talking. I think that's the gold standard of any entertainment at this point, because it's genuine, and we get so little that's genuine anymore. I mean, again, this conversation between you and I has not been a remake, a reboot, or a spin-off. This has been a genuine thing in the moment, and that's what I want the series to be. I want to say to anyone out there who doesn't belong, is not a subscriber to Christian's channel, although I don't think that there's going to be many that aren't, because I think you have a great audience, and I think a lot of them came over for this stream. Please go over and subscribe to Christian's channel. He is a workhorse. He puts a lot of product on the market. He is passionate. Even when you disagree with him, he's never putting on a dog and pony show.
He still loves me when I say something great about a movie he doesn't like. He still loves me.
That's true, and it's more often than you think. But here's the thing: I would rather us have like conversations about those movies than it just become a he said, she said. It's great. It sucks. It's great. It sucks. Who cares? Who wants that conversation? If that's all we are, we can't have a community. We can't. But I always respect differences. I even respect when people, like things like Friday 5, which is indefensible. But the reality is, what we're doing here is having conversations. I was just on the Firefly Family podcast last night. Christian here today. We're building a real community by finding all the fans that might not have discovered one podcast or another, and really creating a web of entertainment. The idea is eventually, you'll be able to go from maybe Cam's channel, All This Filming Is It Healthy, over to Christian's channel, to my channel, back to the new show, which will not be called Sausage Factory, and to, of course, Piz's channel, and to Jay the Stingray's channel. And every night, conceivably, you'll have something to watch. Because I don't know about you, I can't watch, the broadcast television stations and get anything anymore. This is my entertainment, just like it is for you. So that's what it's about, and I think Christian's a great example and an ambassador for horror and for online entertainment. I can't overstate the value I place on his channel.
Well, thank you.
Yep. So we will be back. I'll be back on Monday, the 25th at 8 o'clock. At this point, I'm planning on doing a solo show. There's a chance that will change, but for right now, it'll be a solo show. And then after that, I will have two more discussions planned for next week, one on Thursday and one on Saturday. I will announce those guests shortly. I tend to announce the next guest after each broadcast. Obviously, I won't do that for the next show because it's probably me. But I will say that next week is an extremely exciting week, and it's going to be, I think, very surprising for people. So I'm going to leave it at that. But I want to thank Christian again, and I want to thank everyone in the chat for showing up, and my guests throughout this whole first week of doing these discussions, Orc and Jamie and Christian.
Thank you.
So thanks, guys. Have a great night, and we will see you on the other side.